You stand at the edge of a smoky landscape. The year is 1840, and the air is thick with coal dust and the distant rumble of industry. Around you, the relentless churn of progress demands an endless supply of fuel. But who paid the true price for this fiery revolution? You are about to step back in time into the dim, dangerous world of children whose lives were swallowed by the coal pits. Their days were not marked by play or learning, but by the relentless rhythm of the pickaxe and the ever-present threat of darkness. We will uncover the harrowing truths of their existence, from their earliest years to the silent suffering that defined their fate. Prepare to witness a past where childhood ended long before it truly began. Childhood, for countless children in this industrial age, was a luxury never afforded. You might imagine a child's earliest years filled with sunlight and play, perhaps the warmth of a hearth. But for many, especially in the coalfields, life's harsh lessons began almost with their first steps. Their world was often shaped by the towering headgear of a mine and the dark promise of its subterranean passages. You hear the faint cry of a baby, not a sound of joy, but one of hardship. For some, the journey into the coal dust began incredibly early. We are talking about children as young as 2 or 3 years old, not yet able to speak in full sentences, already part of the machinery of survival. Their role might be simple on the surface, but its implications were profound. You see a tiny figure, barely more than a toddler, working as a sort of early warning system. Perhaps they are tasked with sorting coal on the surface, picking out small stones, their little fingers still clumsy, their attention span short, but their presence necessary. Their hands, even at this tender age, become tools. As they grow, perhaps to 5 or 6 years old, their fate inevitably leads them deeper, away from any glimpse of the sun. You descend with them, stepping into the mouth of the mine. The air immediately changes, growing cooler, damper, heavy with the scent of earth and something metallic. The faint sounds of the surface world disappear, replaced by a symphony of dripping water, the distant scrape of picks, and the murmur of other voices, many of them belonging to children not much older than yourself. Your first proper job, the one that truly seals your fate, might be that of a trapper. Imagine this. You are led down a narrow, often muddy passage, deeper and deeper into the earth. The air thickens. The darkness becomes absolute, broken only by the flickering flame of your small, greasy lamp. You are placed at a trapdoor, a wooden barrier that controls the vital flow of air through the mine. Your instruction is simple. Open the door when you hear the coal wagons approaching. Close it once they have passed. Now picture yourself in that spot. You are 6 years old, perhaps 7. You sit alone for 14 or 16 hours a day in utter silence and darkness. The only sounds are the drip, drip, drip of water, the rustle of rats, and the occasional creak of the timber supports holding back tons of earth above your head. Your world shrinks to a patch of damp floor a flickering flame, and the heavy wooden door before you. There is no conversation, no human interaction, no stories, no songs, just waiting, waiting for the rumble of the wagons, the jingle of chains, the shout of the putter or hurrier. You are forbidden to sleep, forbidden to play. Should the door be left open for too long, or closed at the wrong moment, the delicate ventilation system of the mine could fail. Toxic gas, known chillingly as choke damp, could accumulate, suffocating the men and boys working deeper inside. Or explosive gas, fire damp, could ignite with a single spark from a pickaxe, engulfing the mine in a fiery inferno. The responsibility of life and death, immense and unseen, rests on your tiny shoulders. The loneliness is suffocating. You fight off boredom, the creeping cold, the gnawing hunger. Your eyes strain in the gloom, trying to discern shapes. In the impenetrable blackness, your ears become attuned to every subtle shift in the mind's living groan. Hours stretch into an eternity. This is your classroom. This is your playground. This is your childhood, and it is being devoured by the darkness. As you grow a little older, perhaps to 8 or 9, your strength is deemed sufficient for heavier tasks. You are now a hurrier or a putter, depending on the mine and the region. You move from the stationary agony of the trapdoor to the mobile, back-breaking work of transporting coal. Imagine you are deep within a seam, where the coal layer is sometimes only 2 or 3 feet high. You cannot stand upright. You must crawl on your hands and knees, or stoop, or slide on your belly, pushing or pulling heavy tubs of coal. These tubs, often weighing hundreds of pounds when full, are your burden. You might be harnessed to them with a chain passed between your legs and fastened to a belt around your waist. This is known as a girdle and chain. The chain chafes your skin raw, digging into your groin and thighs with every desperate push or pull. Your muscles ache constantly. Your knees are perpetually bruised and scraped. Your back is bowed, even at this young age, from the unnatural posture and the relentless strain. The air is thick with coal dust, clinging to your skin, filling your lungs with every ragged breath. You cough constantly, a dry, rattling sound that echoes in the confined space. Sometimes you are part of a team, perhaps a slightly older child, a thruster, pushes from behind, while you, the hurrier, pull from the front. The work is relentless, the pace driven by the demands of the pit boss and the ever-present threat of a beating for idleness. You learn early that rest is a luxury, a weakness that costs precious pence and risks the wrath of your overseers. The darkness is your constant companion, but it is not a peaceful darkness. It is a menacing presence, filled with unseen dangers. The roof above you could collapse at any moment. You hear stories, hushed and grim, of crushing accidents, of boys trapped beneath tons of rock and coal. You see the evidence of it in the limping gait of older miners, the missing limbs, the scarred faces. Explosions are another terrifying reality. The fire damp that you, as a trapper, once helped control, now poses a direct threat to your life as you work deeper in the seams. A sudden whoosh of air, a blinding flash, and the world could erupt in a roaring inferno, searing flesh and lungs, snuffing out lives in an instant. Even if you survive the initial blast, the afterdamp, a suffocating mixture of gases, often claims more victims. You learn to live with a constant undercurrent of fear. Each day begins with a silent prayer for safe passage. Though you might not even know the words, your body is perpetually sore, your mind perpetually dulled by exhaustion. There is no time for school. Education is a distant concept, a privilege for children in another world. Your lessons are taught by the pickaxe, the coal tub, the dim flickering lamp, and the hard, unyielding rock face. Your diet is meager, perhaps a piece of bread and cheese, a watery soup if you are lucky. Malnutrition is rampant. Your growth is stunted. Your bones are brittle, and your complexion is pale and sickly, never seeing the sun's beneficial rays. Rickets, a disease that deforms bones, is common, leaving you with bowed legs or a twisted spine. Lung diseases, known collectively as miner's asthma, begin to settle in early, a slow, inevitable march toward chronic illness and premature death. The physical toll is immense. You see boys your age, and even younger, with the bodies of old men. Their faces are etched with grime and fatigue, their hands calloused and scarred, their backs bent from years of stooping and crawling in the confined spaces of the mine. Girls, too, are part of this brutal labor force, often performing the same tasks as the boys, sometimes even more strenuous ones, carrying coal in baskets on their backs up steep, winding shafts. Their clothes are ragged, their hair matted with dust and sweat. Their femininity, their very youth, is stripped away by the harsh realities of their existence. You might wonder why. Why would parents send their own children into such a hellish existence? The answer is simple and devastating. Economic necessity. For many mining families, survival depended on every able body contributing to the family income. A father's wages alone were often insufficient to feed and house a large family. A child's meager earnings, perhaps a few pence a day, could be the difference between eating and starving, between keeping a roof over their heads and destitution. Parents, themselves often broken by the mines, saw no other option, no other path for their offspring. The cycle of poverty and labor was deeply entrenched, passed down from one generation to the next. So you work day after day, week after week, year after year. The seasons change above ground, but below it is always the same damp, dark, dangerous monotony. Your senses are dulled, then heightened by the constant low-level stress. You learn to interpret the sounds of the mine, the shifting earth, the distant groans of the timber. These become your language, your survival guide. Your dreams, if you have any, are likely filled with the rattling of coal tubs, the smell of lamp oil, and the endless, all-consuming darkness. There is little time for imagination, little space for hope. Childhood, with its promise of growth and learning and joy, is not merely cut short for you. It is systematically dismantled, piece by agonizing piece, replaced by the grim realities of survival in the bowels of the earth. Your journey into the mine is not just a job. It is a forced initiation into a world that steals your youth, sacrifices your health, and leaves an indelible mark on your very soul. You are a child, yes, but you are also a miner, and that identity will define every waking moment, every aching bone, every labored breath. The cradle, for you, led directly to the coal, and the end of childhood was simply the beginning of a life of unforgiving toil. The promise of an unforgiving toil quickly gives way to the chilling reality of the deep. You stand at the mouth of the pit, or perhaps crouch at the entrance to a narrow adit, a horizontal tunnel burrowing into the earth. The world above, with its fleeting glimpses of sky and the fresh kiss of morning air, begins to recede. Before you stretches an abyss, a yawning maw of absolute blackness that seems to swallow the very light of day. This is your workplace. This is your prison. The descent itself is often a terrifying ordeal. Perhaps you are packed into a creaking, rattling cage, squeezed tightly with other miners, both adults and children. Your bodies press against rough wood or cold iron. The cage lurches, then drops, plummeting downwards with dizzying speed. The air grows colder, heavier, and the scent of damp earth, coal dust, and human sweat fills your nostrils. You grip the sides, knuckles white, your small frame trembling, as the world shrinks to a narrow shaft of dim light above, rapidly fading into a pinprick, then vanishing entirely. The roar of the winding gear, the rush of air, and the distant shouts echo around you. Before you land with a jolt, deep below the surface. Or perhaps there is no cage, only a series of ladders, slick with moisture and worn smooth by countless hands and feet. You climb down, rung by agonizing rung, into a darkness so profound it feels like a physical presence pressing in on your eyeballs. The chill seeps into your bones, a constant companion that will never truly leave you. Your breath catches in your throat, a small puff of steam visible for a moment in the beam of your flickering lamp, a tiny circle of defiance against the overwhelming night. Each step down takes you further from the sun, further from life as you once knew it, deeper into the earth's cold, unyielding embrace. Once at the bottom, the true nature of your existence begins to unfold. You navigate a labyrinth of narrow tunnels, some barely wide enough for your body, others so low you must crawl on hands and knees, sometimes even on your belly, pushing yourself forward through the muck and rubble. The ceiling often scrapes against your back, a constant reminder of the weight of the world above. The air here is thick, heavy with the stench of stagnant water, coal gas, and the ever-present, insidious dust that coats every surface, every breath, every inch of your being. For many young children, the first role is that of a trapper. Imagine this: you are positioned alone in a small, damp hole beside a wooden door. Your sole purpose is to open this door when you hear the distant rumble of coal tubs approaching, and then to close it again once they have passed. These doors are vital for regulating the mind's ventilation, directing precious currents of air to where they are most needed. But for you, the trapper boy or girl, it means hours upon endless hours of absolute stillness and solitude. The darkness is your only companion. The small, flickering flame of your lamp casts weak shadows that dance and play tricks on your eyes. You strain to hear, your ears constantly alert for the sounds that signal your moment of action: the dripping water, the scurrying of rats, the distant thud of picks, the rumble of passing tubs. These become the entire symphony of your world. There is no conversation, no laughter, no instruction beyond the initial command, just the profound, oppressive silence broken only by the sounds of the mind and your own ragged breathing. The cold seeps into your bones, the dampness chills you to the core, and boredom becomes a torturous enemy. The minutes stretch into hours, the hours into an eternity, as you sit waiting, your young mind slowly succumbing to the crushing monotony and the creeping fear of the unknown that lurks in the unfathomable depths around you. As you grow, if you grow at all in this stunted environment, your tasks become more physically demanding. You might become a hurrier or a putter, roles that require incredible strength and endurance for a child's undeveloped body. Your job is to transport the heavy tubs of coal from the coal face, where the getters hack it from the seam to the main roadways. These tubs, sometimes weighing hundreds of pounds when full, must be pulled or pushed through incredibly low and narrow passages. You strap a chain around your waist or sometimes between your legs, and you push with your head, sometimes with a cap fitted with a metal plate to protect your skull. Or you pull on all fours, your body bent double or even crawling on your belly. Your back aches, your muscles scream, and your knees and elbows become raw and bruised from constant scraping against the rough ground. The seams can be so low that even a small child cannot stand upright. You spend your entire shift bent, twisted, contorted into unnatural positions, forcing your small body to perform tasks meant for oxen. The air in these working areas is far worse than in the main roads. The act of digging and loading coal churns up vast quantities of dust, creating a perpetual choking fog. Every breath you take draws this fine, black powder deep into your lungs. It coats your throat, irritates your airways, and settles in the very fabric of your being. You cough constantly, a deep, rattling cough that shakes your small frame. Your sputum is black, a grim testament to the silent assault your lungs endure with every passing minute. This is the insidious onset of what will become known as pneumoconiosis, or simply black lung. It is not an immediate, dramatic injury like a roof collapse or a gas explosion. Instead, it is a slow, relentless suffocation, a gradual hardening and scarring of your lung tissue, turning it black, robbing it of its ability to absorb oxygen. Every day spent in the mine is another deposit in this grim bank of illness, a compounding interest of suffering that will inevitably lead to breathlessness, chronic pain, and an early, agonizing death. But black lung is not the only threat lurking in the darkness. The mine is a symphony of dangers. The very ground beneath you is unstable. The roof above can collapse without warning, burying you beneath tons of rock and coal. Explosions of methane gas, known as fire damp, are a constant terror, ignited by the open flame of a lamp or a spark from a pickaxe. The flash and roar are instant, obliterating, leaving behind shattered bodies and scorched earth. Water is another relentless enemy. Flooding can trap you in remote sections of the mine, the icy water rising quickly, threatening to drown you in the dark. Falls are common on the slippery, uneven terrain, leading to broken bones, head injuries, and sprains. And then there are the heavy coal tubs themselves, capable of crushing a small body against a tunnel wall or dragging you beneath their wheels if you slip or stumble. The darkness conceals these perils until it is too late. Your lamp, a precious lifeline, offers only a limited sphere of vision, leaving the surrounding blackness to hide a multitude of lethal traps. There are no proper breaks in this world. You might snatch a few moments to chew on a meager crust of bread or a cold potato, perhaps sharing a swig of warm, stale water from a communal bottle. But even these moments are tinged with the anxiety of returning to work, the knowledge that any slowing of pace could lead to a cuff around the ear or a beating from the overseer. Your small body is constantly cold, constantly damp, constantly hungry, and constantly tired. Sleep offers little respite, often disturbed by aches and pains, by the phantom sounds of the mine, or by nightmares of collapse and darkness. The sheer physical deformation suffered by these child miners is heartbreaking. Their spines become curved from hours spent stooped and crawling. Their legs bow or twist. Their knees and ankles swell. Their hands and fingers become gnarled and arthritic from gripping tools and tubs. Their growth is stunted, their bodies forever marked by the brutal demands placed upon them. They often resemble old men and women by the time they reach their early 20s, their faces etched with lines of exhaustion and pain, their bodies already failing. The constant exposure to the dust, the damp, and the lack of sunlight weakens their immune systems, making them susceptible to a host of other illnesses: bronchitis, pneumonia, rheumatism, and tuberculosis. Life expectancy for a miner, especially a child who started young, was drastically reduced. Many did not live past their 30s or 40s, their lungs finally giving out, their bodies worn beyond repair. The black lung's embrace is not a gentle one. It is a slow, crushing suffocation, a relentless tightening of its grip until every breath becomes a struggle, and finally, no breath is left at all. This is the grim reality of your working life. Every beat of your heart, every strained breath, every ache in your young bones is a testament to the brutal price paid for the fuel that powered the factories and homes of a burgeoning industrial nation. You are trapped in this subterranean world, a child swallowed by the earth, your destiny inextricably linked to the coal you excavate, your future clouded by the very air you breathe. The darkness is not just an absence of light, it is a creeping sickness, a silent killer, weaving its way into the very fibers of your lungs, guaranteeing a premature end to a life that barely had a beginning. You carry the mine within you, a black mark on your soul, and an unhealing wound in your chest. A constant reminder of the darkness you inhabit, both literally and figuratively. The very air, thick with dust, becomes the most insidious weapon of all, a slow poison that guarantees a painful early end. The deep, heavy cough that racks your body is not just a symptom. It is a morbid countdown, a drumbeat leading to your inevitable fate. You are a living testament to the human cost of progress, a child of the coal, destined to breathe the black dust until your own lungs turn to stone. Your lungs may turn to stone, but long before that slow, agonizing transformation begins, a different kind of toll is exacted, starting in the earliest years, in the deepest, most forgotten corners of this subterranean labyrinth. You are not alone in this darkness. Many are even younger, condemned to roles so basic, so monotonous, they are barely tasks. These are the lives of the trappers, the very youngest sent down into the earth, their tender years stolen by the relentless demand for coal. Imagine yourself as one of them. You are perhaps 5 or 6, maybe 7 years old. Your world shrinks to a tiny wooden door, set deep within a narrow, winding passage. Your sole purpose, Your only job is to sit in utter darkness for 10, 12, sometimes 14 hours a day, waiting for the rumble of an approaching coal cart, waiting for the flicker of a distant lamp. Your instructions are simple, yet vitally important. Open the door when you hear the cart. Close it again once it has passed. This small, crucial act maintains the mind's ventilation system, directing the flow of air, keeping the deadly methane gas from accumulating and exploding. Your failure to act, your simple forgetfulness, could mean catastrophe for everyone. You sit on a damp, rough-hewn stool, or sometimes directly on the cold, wet ground. The air is stagnant, heavy with the smell of damp earth, coal dust, and the faint, unsettling odor of horses and human waste carried on the drafts. The only sounds are the drip, drip, drip of water seeping through the rock overhead, the distant, muffled thud of picks, and the occasional scuttling of rats, emboldened by your stillness. You are utterly alone in this profound blackness, your small, undeveloped mind grappling with immense boredom and a constant, gnawing fear. What if you fall asleep? What if you miss the signal? The consequences could be dire. Men have been beaten for less. The cold seeps into your bones. The dampness chills you to the core. Your eyes, straining against the impenetrable dark, ache. You learn to discern the different noises of the mind, to feel the vibrations in the ground that announce an approaching cart long before you can see it. Your body grows stiff, cramped from hours of inactivity. Your legs unused to stretching, your back permanently hunched from leaning forward, listening. You have no books, no toys, no conversation, only the door, the darkness, and your solitary vigil. Your childhood is evaporating, replaced by the grim reality of survival, a tiny cog in the vast, unforgiving machine of the mind. Sometimes a rat, bold and unafraid, might brush against your leg in the darkness, making you jump, or a blast of cold air, suddenly rushing through the passage, might send shivers down your spine. A momentary relief from the stale air, but also a reminder of the mind's vast, cold indifference. You might try to hum a tune or talk to yourself in a whisper, just to hear a human sound, to reassure yourself that you are still there, still a person, not just a shadow swallowed by the earth. But mostly there is silence, broken only by the work, the grinding of wheels, the shouts of the older boys and men. As you grow a little older, perhaps 7 or 8, you might graduate from the suffocating solitude of a trapper to the equally dangerous, but physically more demanding, life of a pony boy. Now you are no longer rooted to one spot. Now you move, navigating the treacherous passages alongside the mine ponies and horses that haul the heavy coal tubs from the working faces to the main shafts. These animals, often blind and stunted from their lives underground, are your companions and your charge. You are small enough to squeeze through the low, narrow tunnels, sometimes crawling on hands and knees, sometimes bent double, your spine already curving into a permanent arch. You guide the ponies, sometimes leading them by the bridle, sometimes walking behind, pushing the loaded tubs. The air here is even thicker with coal dust, kicked up by the movement of the animals and the carts. The passages are barely wide enough for a pony and a tub, leaving precious little room for your small body. One wrong step, one sudden lurch of the cart, and you could be crushed against the rock face, or worse, under the wheels of the tub. The work is relentless. The ponies are strong, but they are also stubborn, sometimes fearful, often abused. You learn to handle them, to coax them forward, to keep them moving through the darkness. The smell of the ponies, their sweat, their dung, their wet hair, mixes with the dust and damp, creating a potent, earthy aroma that permeates your clothes, your skin, your very being. You are covered in grime, a living shadow moving through shadows, your face streaked with black, your eyes constantly scanning the path ahead for obstacles, for dips, for loose rocks. The noise is different here too. The rhythmic clop of the pony's hooves, the creak and groan of the wooden tubs, the jingle of harnesses, the urgent shouts of the older boys and men driving the convoys. Sometimes the ponies are terrified by sudden loud noises or unfamiliar shadows, and they bolt, sending tubs careening down the tracks. You must be quick, agile, and fearless to avoid injury. Many pony boys suffer broken bones, lacerations, or even death in these terrifying runaway incidents. The light you carry, a small oil lamp, barely pierces the gloom, casting dancing shadows that play tricks on your tired eyes. You learn the mind's geography by feel, by memory, by the subtle changes in the rock face. Every bend, every dip, every rise is ingrained in your mind, a map of danger and fatigue. Your muscles ache constantly. Your hands are raw and calloused from gripping the bridle and pushing the heavy tubs. The sheer physical exertion, day after day, year after year, stunts your growth, twists your limbs, and prematurely ages your young body. You are not a child playing in the sun. You are a laborer, a beast of burden, performing adult work in conditions that would break most adults. The supervisors, the men who oversee the work, are often stern, sometimes brutal. They carry sticks or straps, ready to strike if a pony boy is too slow, or if a pony falters. Fear is a constant companion, not just of the mind's inherent dangers, but of the wrath of those in charge. You learn to anticipate their moods, to obey instantly, to disappear into the shadows when their anger flares. There is no gentleness here, no kind word, only the raw, unyielding demand for coal. The seams themselves, these thin veins of coal that dictate the height and width of your world, are unforgiving. Sometimes the seam is tall enough for you to stoop, but often it is so low you must crawl, dragging yourself and the heavy tubs through inches of muddy water and sharp coal shards. Your knees are perpetually bruised, your clothes torn, your skin scraped raw. You are working in the literal seams of the earth, extracting its black blood, and in return, the earth takes its own pound of flesh from you. At the end of your shift, utterly exhausted, covered in a layer of black dust that seems to have become part of your skin, you ascend back to the surface. The sudden rush of fresh air, the sight of the sky, even if it is gray and smoke-filled, can be disorienting. You are temporarily blinded by the faint light, your eyes accustomed to the deep, oppressive dark, but the relief is fleeting. Tomorrow, the darkness will call you back. Tomorrow, the routine of fear, isolation, and back-breaking labor will begin again. Your pay, a pittance, is often barely enough to feed you and your family a meager meal of bread and gruel. There is no concept of a future beyond the next shift. No thought of education, no dream of escape. This is your life, inextricably woven into the fabric of the mine. You are a child of the coal, yes, but more specifically, you are a trapper, a pony boy, one of the countless children sacrificed at the altar of industrial progress. Your small life, a silent testament to the vast human cost of a world hungry for energy. The darkness leaves its indelible mark, shaping your body, scarring your spirit, forever binding you to the subterranean world that became your childhood. The long-term effects are already beginning to show. Your lungs, already laboring, become increasingly vulnerable. Your posture, bent and twisted from years of stooping and crawling, may never straighten. Your eyes, constantly straining in the dark, might suffer permanent damage. The chronic cough, the shallow breathing, the persistent ache in your bones are not mere discomforts. They are the early symptoms of a life brutally shortened. You exist in a state of perpetual exhaustion, your mind dulled by the repetitive tasks, your spirit eroded by the constant fear and the absence of light, joy, or hope. You are living evidence of a society that consumed its young with the same rapacious hunger it consumed its coal, leaving behind a generation of broken bodies and shattered lives. The seams of the earth are mirrored by the seams of your own existence, stretched thin, worn through, and perpetually on the verge of tearing apart. The darkness that permeated the very core of human compassion allowed the industrial maw to grind on. transforming not only the earth's resources, but also the delicate, developing bodies of children into fuel for its insatiable hunger. You, the child miner, are not merely a worker. You are a living, breathing component in a vast, subterranean engine. Your small frame, intended for growth and play, becomes a tool, reshaped and distorted by the unyielding demands of the coal seam. Imagine, if you can, the sheer physical toll. Your day begins long before the sun even hints at rising. A phantom warmth you rarely feel. You descend into the deep, the damp air instantly clinging to your lungs. A cold, persistent enemy. The descent itself is a jarring, rattling experience, a prelude to the relentless work ahead. You are perhaps a hurrier, dragging heavy tubs of coal through narrow passages, or a putter, pushing them. Your body is perpetually bent, often doubled over, sometimes even crawling on all fours. Your knees and hands raw and bleeding from constant contact with the rough, unforgiving ground. Feel the persistent ache in your lower back, a dull, throbbing pain that never truly leaves you. Your spine, still forming, curves unnaturally, adapting to the confined spaces. Your legs, meant for running through sunlit fields, become bowed and heavy, accustomed only to the strain of hauling and pushing. You are perpetually wet, the sweat mixing with the cold dampness of the mine, chilling you to the bone. Your clothes, patched and threadbare, offer little protection against the elements or the abrasive rock. Every breath you take is laden with coal dust. It coats your tongue, settles in your throat, and most insidiously invades your lungs. You learn to live with a persistent cough, a deep rattling sound that seems to echo from your very core. This is not a common cold. This is the slow, insidious march of pneumoconiosis, commonly known as black lung. Each inhalation plants tiny, sharp particles deeper within you, hardening your tissue, stealing your breath, one precious gasp at a time. The air is thick, often stale, sometimes choked with the acrid smell of lamp oil, or, far worse, the chilling scent of gas, signaling an unseen danger. Your eyes, perpetually strained by the flickering light of your small lamp, struggle to pierce the profound darkness. The constant gloom weakens your sight, and accidents are commonplace. A pickaxe swings too wide. A piece of rock breaks off unexpectedly. A wagon wheel skids. Lost fingers are a horrifyingly common occurrence, severed cleanly or mangled beyond recognition. Limbs are crushed between tubs and walls. You might witness a friend scream, their hand caught, their small body suddenly still. The fear is a cold knot in your stomach, a constant companion, but there is no time for tears, no space for lingering horror. You must continue. The work must be done. Your body is scarred not only by immediate injury, but by chronic deprivation. Rickets, caused by the lack of sunlight and poor nutrition, distorts your bones further, making them brittle and misshapen. Your skin is perpetually pale beneath the layer of coal dust, a stark contrast to the healthy glow of children who live above ground. You are often hungry, your meager meals offering barely enough sustenance to fuel your exhaustive labors. The lack of proper food means your immune system is weak, leaving you vulnerable to every shiraz, every cough, every fever, every epidemic that sweeps through the overcrowded, unsanitary mining communities. You are always tired. Exhaustion is your default state. You fall asleep on your feet if you stand still for too long. Your body craving rest it rarely receives. Sometimes your eyelids droop and you nod off, your head falling against the rough coal. This momentary lapse can be deadly. A misstep, a forgotten warning, a moment of inattention can lead to catastrophe, not just for you, but for those around you. The pressure to stay alert, even when your body screams for sleep, is immense. The ceaseless effort of your work demands a constant expenditure of energy far beyond what your developing body can safely sustain. You are performing tasks that would strain a full-grown man, yet you are still a child, your muscles and bones not yet fully formed. The muscles in your shoulders and back ripple with an unnatural strength, developed through sheer necessity, but this strength comes at a terrible cost to your overall health and longevity. Your growth is stunted. You will likely never reach the height you might have attained. Your body, a child's body, is forced to bear an adult's burden. The conditions are a silent assault on your senses and your physical being. The air is cold and damp, a stark contrast to the sweat that streams down your face and body. The ground beneath your bare feet or through your worn boots is often uneven, slick with water, or strewn with sharp pieces of rock. Each step is a careful calculation, a constant awareness of potential peril. The constant strain on your eyes, attempting to decipher shapes in the murky half-light, contributes to a never-ending headache, a dull throb behind your eyes that only sleep can temporarily alleviate. Your hands, once soft and small, become hard, calloused, and gnarled. They are covered in cuts, blisters, and ingrained coal dust that no amount of scrubbing can ever fully remove. These are the hands of a veteran laborer, yet they belong to a child. You learn to handle the heavy tools with a grim dexterity, your fingers becoming extensions of the picks and shovels, numb to the constant friction and impact. The skin on your knuckles splits and bleeds in the cold, dry air of some sections, or grows soft and prone to infection in the perpetual dampness of others. The dangers are not just from the coal face itself. Explosions of methane gas, silent and invisible, rip through the mine without warning, incinerating everything in their path. Flooding, sudden and overwhelming, can trap you in the tunnels, the water rising inexorably, suffocating your screams. Roof collapses, the earth above you groaning and giving way, bury you alive in an instant. You live with these possibilities every single day. The knowledge a heavy weight in your chest, a constant tremor just beneath your skin. Your hearing, too, is under constant assault. The clang of metal on rock, the rumble of wagons, the shouts of the overseers, the drip of water, the distant groans of the earth itself. These sounds combine into a deafening symphony of industrial torment, eroding your senses, making it difficult to hear the quiet sounds of approaching danger, or even the soft voice of a friend. The journey home, if you are lucky enough to make it, offers little respite. Your body aches in every fiber, protesting the brutal day. You stumble through the gloom, the faint lights of the cottages a distant, flickering hope. You are coated in a fine layer of coal dust, a permanent second skin, turning your features into a smudged, indistinct mask. Your parents, themselves weary from their own labors, greet you with a silent understanding, a shared burden. There is little comfort, only the stark reality of another day survived. This is your existence. This is the life of a child forged in the crucible of the industrial mine. Your body, twisted and scarred, becomes a testament to the unfeeling demands of an era that saw human beings, especially young ones, as mere cogs in a colossal, unforgiving machine. The profound emptiness left in your heart is mirrored by the physical hollowness, the constant pain, and the certainty that your life will be cut short, your childhood stolen, your future grimly predetermined by the seams of coal you relentlessly extracted. The very air you breathe, the ground you walk upon, the tools you handle, all conspire to slowly dismantle your young body, piece by agonizing piece, until you are nothing more than a ghost, a memory of forgotten suffering, a ghost of suffering in the pit. But what of the life that was never allowed to fully form, the spirit that was never allowed to soar? Your existence was not only defined by the dust and darkness below, but by the gaping emptiness it carved out of your world above ground. For you, the world beyond the pit mouth offered no true escape. The cold grip of poverty and the relentless cycle of labor continued to bind you, even as you stood beneath the open sky. Imagine a childhood filled with sunshine and laughter. Imagine the simple joy of chasing a ball, of climbing a tree, of inventing fantastical stories in your mind. These are luxuries you can barely comprehend. Your days are not marked by play, but by toil. Your hands, still small, are calloused and scarred, not from childhood adventures, but from the brutal demands of the mine. You never learned to read or write. The letters on a page, the words in a book, remain a mystery, a closed door to a world of knowledge and imagination you will never enter. While other children of a different class might spend their evenings hunched over a schoolbook, learning sums or verses, you are simply too exhausted. Your body aches. Your mind is dulled by fatigue, and the only comfort you seek is a fleeting moment of unconsciousness before the new day demands your return to the dark. The absence of education, for you, is not merely a lack of academic knowledge. It is a fundamental deprivation of opportunity. Without the ability to read, to count, to understand the wider world, your prospects are brutally limited. You are trapped within the very system that consumes your youth. The mind becomes your university, its lessons harsh and unforgiving, teaching you only endurance and the bitter taste of resignation. There are no dreams of becoming a skilled artisan, a shopkeeper, or even a soldier. Your future, it seems, is already written in the coal seams. A lineage of labor, a perpetual descent into the earth. Think of the small, fleeting moments of childhood joy that are denied to you. The warmth of a shared story by a fire. The freedom to explore a field. The thrill of a simple game with friends. These are not part of your reality. Your play is often mimicry of your work, a dangerous game of dodging falling rocks, or perhaps a moment of shared silence with a fellow child laborer, a silent understanding of your shared plight, the vibrant imagination that blossoms in other children, nurtured by stories and free time, withers within you, choked by the dust and the never-ending grind. What little energy you possess is devoted to survival, not to the whimsical flights of fancy that define a true childhood. Your family, while physically present, also bears the crushing weight of this existence. Your parents, themselves aged beyond their years by relentless labor, are caught in the same unforgiving trap. There is little time for comforting words, for shared meals that are not hurried and silent, or for the gentle guidance that shapes a young mind. Love, in this harsh environment, often manifests as a desperate struggle to keep each other alive, to put food on the table, to simply survive another week. The emotional bonds, while deep, are often strained by the constant pressure of poverty and exhaustion. Older siblings, if you have them, are likely already working alongside you, their own childhoods equally stolen. The family unit becomes a collective of laborers bound by economic necessity rather than a haven for growth and nurturing. The physical toll of your mining life extends far beyond the immediate injuries. Even when you are not actively working, your body continues its slow deterioration. The coal dust you breathe daily permeates your lungs, setting the stage for chronic respiratory diseases that will plague you throughout your shortened life. The damp, cold conditions underground led to crippling rheumatism and arthritis, even in your young bones. The poor nutrition, the meager diet of watery soup and stale bread, prevents your body from developing properly, leaving you stunted, weak, and susceptible to illness. Rickets might twist your limbs, making walking painful. Your spine, bent unnaturally for hours on end, in low seams, begins to curve, leaving you permanently hunched. You carry the marks of the mine, not just on your skin, but in the very architecture of your skeletal frame. You are a living testament to the destructive power of industrial progress, a monument built of pain and premature aging. But perhaps the most profound injury is the one inflicted upon your spirit, upon your very sense of self. The constant fear, the daily indignity, the crushing weight of responsibility placed on your young shoulders, all combine to extinguish the spark of hope. You learn to expect little, to dream less. Resignation becomes a familiar companion. What little ambition you might have once possessed is slowly eroded by the relentless reality of your situation. You are taught, implicitly and explicitly, that your life has little value beyond your capacity for labor. This internalization of your low status, this acceptance of your predetermined fate, is perhaps the cruelest theft of all. It robs you not just of a future, but of the very capacity to imagine a different one. These are the dreams buried alive, the dreams of learning, of playing, of exploring, of simply being a child, the dreams of a future where your efforts might lead to something more than endless toil. What kind of person might you have become if given the chance? A poet, inspired by the natural world, rather than crushed by the one beneath it. An inventor whose sharp mind might have devised new ways to ease human suffering instead of enduring it. A loving parent whose own children would know a childhood free from such horrors? We will never know. Your potential, vast and unknowable, lies entombed beneath layers of coal and poverty, a silent testament to the immeasurable human cost of an era obsessed with progress at any price. The silent scream of what might have been echoes through the forgotten valleys and slag heaps, a haunting reminder that while the mines extracted coal, they also extracted the very soul of a generation. The lives you and so many like you led were not just hard, they were a profound denial of human flourishing, a testament to a society that sacrificed its most vulnerable for profit. The echoes of that sacrifice do not fade with the passage of the years. They reverberate still, a chilling testament to the human cost etched into the very fabric of history. You feel the cold weight of that legacy, not just in the immediate suffering, but in the long, lingering shadows it cast over entire lives, entire communities. This was not a wound that healed. It was a scar that deepened, shaping generations. Imagine yourself growing, or rather, failing to grow. Your body, meant for childhood play and natural development, twisted and warped by the unnatural demands of the mind. Your spine, bent perpetually in the low tunnels, begins to curve, an irreversible arc that will follow you through every waking moment. Your legs, sturdy in their youth, bow under the strain of carrying heavy loads, each step a testament to ligaments and bones pushed beyond their limit. This is not just temporary discomfort. This is permanent deformation, a physical branding that marks you as a miner, even when you are far from the coalface. You carry the shape of the pit within your very frame. Every breath you take, even now, carries a phantom dust. The insidious coal dust, inhaled for years in the dark, damp air, settles deep within your lungs. It hardens, calcifies, transforming delicate tissue into something akin to stone. You cough, a deep, rattling sound that seems to tear from your very core. This is not a simple cold. This is the slow suffocation of black lung disease, a sentence of breathlessness that will accompany you to your grave. Your chest tightens, a constant pressure, a reminder of the thousands of cubic feet of polluted air you once swallowed. The sheer effort of breathing becomes a daily battle, each gasp a desperate plea for air that feels increasingly scarce. And the scars, you trace them with a phantom hand, the twisted finger crushed by a falling rock, the limp that never quite went away after a leg was pinned beneath a runaway cart, the pervasive aches in every joint, a chronic pain that gnaws at you, dulling every joy, stealing your rest. Your body, ravaged and prematurely aged, bears the indelible marks of its arduous past. You are barely an adult, yet you move with the weary gait of an old man, your face etched with lines of perpetual strain and hardship. The very act of living becomes an endurance test, a constant struggle against a body that has betrayed you, broken by the demands placed upon it in your formative years. But the physical scars, terrible as they are, tell only half the story. Peer into the depths of your own mind. What remains of the child you once were? The fear, a constant companion in the dark, echoes through your waking hours. The sudden crash, the cry for help, the suffocating blackness of a collapse. These moments replay in your memory, vivid and terrifying. Sleep offers little respite, often haunted by nightmares of being trapped, buried alive, or watching a friend disappear into the gloom. You carry an anxiety that colors every interaction, a deep-seated apprehension that the world is a dangerous, unforgiving place, always threatening to swallow you whole. Your childhood was stolen, not simply shortened. The curiosity, the wonder, the boundless energy of youth, all were channeled into the single, relentless pursuit of survival. There were no lessons in history or mathematics, no stories whispered at bedtime, no games played in sunlit fields. Your education came from the cold, hard lessons of the mind, how to chisel, how to prop, how to listen for the shifting earth. The absence of formal learning creates a barrier, a chasm between you and those who were afforded even a rudimentary schooling. You feel it, a subtle social discomfort, a sense of being perpetually behind, always catching up, never quite belonging to the world beyond the pit mouth. This isolation extends beyond education. The mining communities, while bound by shared hardship, also faced external judgment. You were seen often as a separate class, destined for the dark. The very landscape around you, scarred by slag heaps and industrial grime, seemed to mirror the internal landscape of its inhabitants. You carry the unspoken weight of a life defined by the mine, a legacy of belonging to a world apart, a world that extracted not only resources, but also the very dignity of its people. The stigma of being pit folk or coal dust, children lingered, a subtle but persistent barrier to social mobility and acceptance within a society that benefited from your suffering. Yet, from this profound suffering, a slow, agonizing change began to emerge. The stark reality of lives like yours, gradually brought to public consciousness by brave reformers and journalists, chipped away at the prevailing indifference. Your bent back, your hacking cough, your haunted eyes became symbols, not just of individual tragedy, but of a systemic injustice that demanded rectification. It was a long, arduous battle, fraught with resistance from powerful interests, but the undeniable truth of children toiling in the darkness, of lives sacrificed for industrial progress, slowly but surely ignited a moral reckoning. Laws were eventually passed, haltingly, imperfectly, to protect children, to limit hours, to improve conditions. You may not have lived to see the full fruits of these reforms, but your suffering, your very existence, laid the foundation for them. The industrial world we inhabit today, with its labor protections, its child welfare laws, its health and safety regulations, owes an immeasurable debt to the countless children who endured the horrors of the mines. Every safeguard in a modern workplace, every age restriction for employment, whispers the names of children like you, children who paid the ultimate price for progress. Their lives were not just a cautionary tale, they were the catalysts for a more humane future, a future they themselves were denied. And so, even now, standing in the quiet valleys where the mines once roared, you can almost hear them, the faint echoes of pickaxes against rock, the rumble of coal carts, the hurried footsteps of tiny boots. More poignantly, you hear the silent cries of children who never knew sunlight, whose laughter was replaced by the clatter of machinery, whose dreams were buried deep beneath the earth. The very air seems to hold the ghost of their hardship, a palpable presence that reminds us of the profound cost of unchecked ambition. Their legacy is not just one of suffering, but also one of enduring resilience, a testament to the human spirit's capacity to persist even in the direst of circumstances. The dark, suffocating tunnels may be sealed, the machinery long rusted and silent, but the imprint of those brutal lives remains. It is etched into the landscape, into the history books, and most importantly, into our collective conscience. We remember them not as faceless victims, but as individuals whose stolen potential, whose broken bodies, whose enduring spirit demand our recognition and our continued vigilance. For the echoes from the deep, the legacy of their suffering, serves as a powerful, haunting reminder that true progress must always be measured not just by what we gain, but by what and who we sacrifice along the way. The price of industry should never again be paid with the innocence of childhood.